Another, ennobled by invention and trade in our own day, is that of Strutt of Belper. Their patent of nobility was virtually secured by Jedediah Strutt in 1758, when he invented his machine for making ribbed stockings, and thereby laid the foundations of a fortune which the subsequent bearers of the name have largely increased and nobly employed. The father of Jedediah was a farmer and maltster, who did but little for the education of his children. Yet they all prospered. Jedediah was the second son, and when a boy assisted his father in the work of the farm. At an early age he exhibited a taste for mechanics, and introduced several improvements in the rude agricultural implements of the period. On the death of his uncle he succeeded to a farm at Blackwall, near Normanton, long in the tenancy of the family, and shortly after he married Miss Willett, the daughter of a Derby hosier. Having learned from his wife's brother that various unsuccessful attempts had been made to manufacture ribbed stockings, he proceeded to study the subject with a view to effect what others had failed in accomplishing. He accordingly obtained a stocking frame, and after mastering its construction and mode of action, he proceeded to introduce new combinations, by means of which he succeeded in effecting a variation in the plain loop work of the frame, and was thereby enabled to turn out ribbed hosiery. Having secured a patent for the improved machine, he removed to Derby, and there entered largely on the manufacture of ribbed stockings, in which he was very successful. He afterwards joined Arkwright, of the merits of whose invention he fully satisfied himself, and found the means of securing his patent, as well as erecting a large cotton mill at Cranford, in Derbyshire. After the expiry of the partnership with Arkwright, the Strutts erected extensive cotton mills at Milford, near Belper, which worthily gives its title to the present head of the family. The sons of the founder were, like their father, distinguished for their mechanical ability. Thus William Strutt, the eldest, is said to have invented a self-acting mule, the success of which was only prevented by the mechanical skill of the day being unequal to its manufacture. Edward, the son of William, was a man of eminent mechanical genius, having early discovered the principle of suspension wheels for carriages. He had a wheelbarrow and 2 carts made on the principle, which were used on his farm near Belper. It may be added that the Strutts have throughout been distinguished for their noble employment of the wealth which their industry and skill have brought them, that they have sought in all ways to improve the moral and social condition of the workpeople in their employment, and that they have been liberal donors in every good cause, of which the presentation, by Mr. Joseph Strutt, of the beautiful park or arboretum at Derby, as a gift to the townspeople forever, affords only one of many illustrations. The concluding words of the short address which he delivered on presenting this valuable gift are worthy of being quoted and remembered. As the sun has shone brightly on me through life, it would be ungrateful in me not to employ a portion of the fortune I possess in promoting the welfare of those amongst whom I live, and by whose industry I have been aided in its organization. No less industry and energy have been displayed by the many brave men, both in present and past times, who have earned the peerage by their valor on land and at sea. Not to mention the older feudal lords, whose tenure depended upon military service, and who so often led the van of the English armies in great national encounters. We may point to Nelson, St. Vincent, and Lyons, to Wellington, Hill, Ardenge, Clyde, and many more in recent times, who have nobly earned their rank by their distinguished services. But plodding industry has far oftener worked its way to the peerage by the honorable pursuit of the legal profession, than by any other. No fewer than 70 British peerages, including 2 dukedoms, have been founded by successful lawyers. Mansfield and Erskine were, it is true, of noble family, but the latter used to thank God that out of his own family he did not know a lord. The others were, for the most part, the sons of attorneys, grocers, clergymen, merchants, and hard-working members of the middle class. Out of this profession have sprung the peerages of Howard and Cavendish, the first peers of both families having been judges. Those of Aylesford, Ellenborough, Guildford, Shaftesbury, Hardwicke, Cardigan, Clarendon, Camden, Ellesmere, Rosslyn, and others near our own day, such as Tenterden, Eldon, Brougham, Denman, Truro, Lyndhurst, St Leonards, Cranworth, Campbell, and Chelmsford. Lord Lyndhurst's father was a portrait painter, and that of St Leonards a perfumer and hairdresser in Burlington Street. Young Edward Sugden was originally an errand boy in the office of the late Mr. Groom, of Henrietta Street, Cavendish Square, a certificated conveyancer. And it was there that the future Lord Chancellor of Ireland obtained his first notions of law. The origin of the late Lord Tenterden was perhaps the humblest of all, nor was he ashamed of it. For he felt that the industry, study, and application, by means of which he achieved his eminent position, were entirely due to himself. It is related of him, that on one occasion he took his son Charles to a little shed, then standing opposite the western front of Canterbury Cathedral, and pointing it out to him, said, "Charles, you see this little shop? I have brought you here on purpose to show it you. In that shop your grandfather used to shave for a penny. That is the proudest reflection of my life." When a boy, Lord Tenterden was a singer in the cathedral, and it is a curious circumstance that his destination in life was changed by a disappointment. When he and Mr. Justice Richards were going the home circuit together, they went to service in the cathedral. And on Richards commending the voice of a singing man in the choir, Lord Tenterden said, "Ah! That is the only man I ever envied. When at school in this town, we were candidates for a chorister's place, and he obtained it." Not less remarkable was the rise to the same distinguished office of Lord Chief Justice, of the rugged Kenyon and the robust Ellenborough. Nor was he a less notable man who recently held the same office, the astute Lord Campbell, late Lord Chancellor of England, son of a parish minister in Fifeshire. For many years he worked hard as a reporter for the press, while diligently preparing himself for the practice of his profession. It is said of him, that at the beginning of his career, he was accustomed to walk from county town to county town when on circuit, being as yet too poor to afford the luxury of posting. But step by step he rose slowly but surely to that eminence and distinction which ever follow a career of industry honorably and energetically pursued, in the legal, as in every other profession. There have been other illustrious instances of Lords Chancellors who have plodded up the steep of fame and honor with equal energy and success. The career of the late Lord Eldon is perhaps one of the most remarkable examples. He was a son of a Newcastle coal fitter, a mischievous rather than a studious boy, a great scapegrace at school, and the subject of many terrible thrashings, for orchard robbing was one of the favorite exploits of the future Lord Chancellor. His father first thought of putting him apprentice to a grocer, and afterwards had almost made up his mind to bring him up to his own trade of a coal fitter. But by this time his eldest son William, afterwards Lord Stawell, who had gained a scholarship at Oxford, wrote to his father, "Send Jack up to me, I can do better for him." John was sent up to Oxford accordingly, where, by his brother's influence and his own application, he succeeded in obtaining a fellowship. But when at home during the vacation, he was so unfortunate, or rather so fortunate, as the issue proved, as to fall in love. And running across the border with his elop bride, he married, and as his friends thought, ruined himself for life. He had neither house nor home when he married, and had not yet earned a penny. He lost his fellowship, and at the same time shut himself out from preferment in the church, for which he had been destined. He accordingly turned his attention to the study of the law. To a friend he wrote, "I have married rashly, but it is my determination to work hard to provide for the woman I love,